Hello everyone, my name is Elena Pachon and I am a public health nutritionist. At the Food Fortification Initiative, I am responsible for collating or generating evidence on the public health impact of wheat flour, maize flour, and rice fortification. With my colleagues at the Food Fortification Initiative, I also provide technical assistance to country counterparts in fortification advocacy, monitoring, and evaluation. I am happy to answer any questions you might have. You can reach me at the email address on this slide.
As you are well aware, this course was prepared to guide your flour fortification monitoring efforts. So you might be wondering, what's the purpose of a module called Why Fortify? To put it simply, we want you to believe in flour fortification. We want you to truly commit to it. And that commitment, it's derived from understanding both the consequences of micronutrient deficiencies and, more importantly, the probable impact of a well-designed and well-implemented flour fortification program. So let's get started.
As a reminder, micronutrients are vitamins and minerals such as folic acid and iron, which are needed by the body in small amounts. Despite the minimal intake required, they are vital to human development, disease prevention, and general well-being. Most micronutrients are not produced by the body and so must be consumed. Around the world, billions of people are affected by micronutrient deficiencies. This global problem is often called hidden hunger because it is not always apparent that a person is suffering until the situation is severe. Here you will see some examples of the clinical consequences caused by severe micronutrient deficiencies. For instance, vitamin D deficiency can lead to rickets, which is the weakening of bones. If left untreated, skeletal deformities may occur. Vitamin A deficiency can lead to Betos spots in the eyes and ultimately blindness if the person is not diagnosed and treated. Vitamin A deficiency also increases the individual's risk for contracting an infection. We will talk about the consequences of other micronutrient deficiencies in a few minutes. Please note that the numbers next to the pictures correlate to the source numbers listed at the end of the presentation. The main goal of flour fortification is to increase the dietary intake of vitamins and minerals. Over time, this can lead to improvements in the nutritional status of the population, which means, for example, that they will not be vitamin A deficient. It will also lead to improvements in functional outcomes, such as fewer people sick with infection, thanks to the added vitamin A in their diet. Flour fortification is supported by renowned entities such as the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and nutrition-based not-for-profit organizations. The economic benefits of improving nutrition have been repeatedly recognized by the Copenhagen Consensus. The Copenhagen Consensus is a panel of the world's leading economists that meets every 4 years to consider the best investments to address global concerns. The last 3 panels have each ranked micronutrient interventions among their top recommendations. In 2008, flour and salt fortification ranked number 3. Populations in many countries commonly consume wheat flour in bread, crackers, tortillas, naan, and noodles. Its popularity is also growing in those regions that have not traditionally consumed wheat flour, such as Southeast Asia. Maize is consumed in tortillas and porridges, especially among Latin American and African populations. In most countries, the wheat flour industry is consolidating. The quantity of flour that was once produced in a country by hundreds of small flour mills is now being manufactured by a handful of large mills. Monitoring a few large mills is easier than monitoring hundreds of smaller mills. On the other hand, if you consider the maize milling industry globally, it is less consolidated. This is likely one reason why fewer countries fortify maize flour than wheat flour. One of the primary advantages of flour fortification over other initiatives that aim to increase micronutrient intake is the fact that consumers do not have to alter their eating habits to receive the benefits. Fortified flour can be used in the same recipes as unfortified flour, so consumers can continue to eat the foods they enjoy. At the filming of this video, 85 countries have mandatory wheat flour fortification programs requiring at least iron and/or folic acid to be added to the flour. Many countries include other micronutrients as well. 16 of these countries also have legislation for fortifying various maize products. Now we're going to discuss a few examples of micronutrient deficiencies and their consequences. The first is niacin deficiency and pellagra. Pellagra is associated with diets low in niacin, which is also called vitamin B3. It is a disease characterized by 4 Ds: diarrhea, dermatitis, dementia, and if untreated, death. In the first quarter of the 20th century, pellagra was prevalent in the United States, especially in the southern part of the country. At the time, a significant proportion of that population was sharecroppers, as well as cotton mill workers. They were financially insecure and consumed mainly molasses, fatty meat, and milled corn, none of which provided a substantial amount of niacin. At the peak of the epidemic in 1928, pellagra killed nearly 7,000 people in the country. In 1914, Dr. Joseph Goldberger concluded that pellagra was caused by a deficiency in the diet. However, it wasn't until 1937 that nutritional biochemists at the University of Wisconsin found the association between niacin and pellagra. Soon thereafter, some millers and bakers started to voluntarily fortify flour with iron, niacin, and thiamine based on standards developed by the Food and Drug Administration. The initiative expanded in the 1940s when the government realized that young men were failing physical examinations for the military due to inadequate nutrition. By 1942, 75% of white bread baked in the United States was fortified. Despite the success of the voluntary efforts, some states enacted mandatory fortification later that decade. As you will see in the graph, pellagra dramatically declined after fortification of flour with niacin commenced. Today, pellagra is not a public health concern in the United States. Dr. Reynaldo Martorell will now share an experience from Costa Rica showing reductions in iron deficiency anemia because of food fortification with iron.
I'm Reynaldo Martorell. I'm a professor of nutrition at the Department of Global Health at Emory University. I have worked in nutrition for about 35 years. Anemia is a very low concentration of red blood cells, and its causes are many. About half of anemia worldwide is caused by iron deficiency. In some countries, genetic abnormalities like sickle cell are causes of anemia, but again, about half of all anemia is due to iron deficiency. Anemia is a very important problem in public health. It has many consequences, and a key consequence is the result of the shortage of red blood cells. And red blood cells deliver oxygen to all organs and tissues, and so if you have anemia, it means you're not getting enough oxygen, which means you feel tired, you feel lethargic, your capacity to do work is also impaired. And another consequence is that anemia can cause impairment of child development and learning. So this is an important issue that has long-term consequences for individuals and societies. It increases the risk of mortality in women at childbirth, and this is due to an interaction between anemia and hemorrhaging. A normal woman might tolerate some bleeding, but if the woman is anemic, particularly severely anemic, any amount of bleeding will cause death. Costa Rica is a small country in Central America. It's really a pioneer in food fortification. It's been fortifying, for example, wheat flour for quite a long time. It currently fortifies a basket of foods, a variety of foods including sugar, salt, flours, wheat, and corn. Together with colleagues from Costa Rica, we conducted an evaluation of the food fortification program in Costa Rica. Several years ago, Costa Rica improved the quality of the iron that was being added to wheat flour and to corn flour and to milk, and began using compounds that were well absorbed. And we looked at a national survey, and we were able to compare the prevalence of anemia in both women and children before and after these changes were made, and found there was a remarkable reduction. In women, anemia was reduced from 18 to 10%, and in children from 19 to 4%. So there was evidence of a strong impact due to the fortification program of Costa Rica. There are important lessons that Costa Rica provides for other countries. In some countries, the compounds that are being used to fortify foods with iron are not very good compounds, and they may want to take a look at the program in Costa Rica and think about what they might do to improve that aspect. They also need to look at dietary surveys to see if the foods that are being fortified are being consumed by the population that is a priority population in order to reduce anemia. And they can also look at the monitoring system that Costa Rica has, and also at the design of the evaluation that Costa Rica used. I think if countries do this, they will improve the impact of their programs.
Dr. Godfrey Oakley will share the global experience of reducing neural tube defects through flour fortification with folic acid.
Spina bifida and anencephaly are two of the most severe and common birth defects, and they both occur very early in pregnancy. What's going to be your brain and your spinal cord is like a flat sheet of cells. And in order to make a so-called neural tube, you have to fold this up, okay? And it sort of starts folding up about where the middle of your back is. And then there's a zipping process, and it zippers up this way, and if that zipping process doesn't work, you get anencephaly, which is fatal in and around the time of birth. When the zipper process doesn't work down toward your bottom, you get spina bifida because the spinal cord doesn't form quite well. How much disability you have depends upon where the zipping process stops. And the least involved children with spina bifida at least have paralysis of bladder and bowel. And of course, the further up the spinal cord you go, the more disability you have, and that leads to kids on crutches and in wheelchairs for most of their life because they've lost the ability to walk normally. One of the most important public health stories of our time is the discovery that a simple B vitamin folic acid will prevent these two terrible birth defects. The foundation for making this go away is providing women with food that has folic acid that has been added to it, because then we know every woman has enough at the time they become pregnant. In the U.S., for example, if you want to sell a product that's a grain product and it has the word enriched on it, since 1998 you have been required to have folic acid in it. And that has prevented almost all of folic acid preventable spina bifida and anencephaly in the U.S. It is close to a miracle. Among other things, it's so cheap to do, so inexpensive to do. In the United States, it costs 1 penny per person a year to make this birth defect go away. We've just been looking at what it means just for India alone. India has over 100,000 babies born with spina bifida and anencephaly that folic acid alone can prevent. And if we were to get women in India with enough folic acid, this birth defect would essentially go away. I look at this, if India can make smallpox go away, if India can make polio go away, India can make folic acid preventable spina bifida go away. When you put folic acid, like in the U.S. in the flour, you make folate deficiency anemia go away. There is a very recent and wonderful paper from China that suggests that at people in China at the lower half of their serum folate levels, taking folic acid will prevent half of first-time strokes. Half of first strokes. An enormous potential additional benefit to fortifying flour. Putting folic acid in flour really is as good as, it's the best thing since sliced bread. There isn't any question about that.
To close out this module, I'd like to present a story shared by a woman who was born with spina bifida.
My name is Francisca, and I'm born with a spina bifida. We are 8 in our family. I'm second born. Yeah, but they are all okay. They don't have any disability. I grew up in a village, back in a remote place, back in Samburu. It was really a place that nobody don't understand about what disability means. They don't have any information about disability. So they just believe that I'm a curse, you know. In our culture, they just put a poison, some poison, and then they soak, and then they give a child who was born with a disability, so they can kill. So when my mother found that I was to be killed, she ran away with me. I just went to school like a normal child, but it was really hard because the school was far. It's really hard for me to walk. I don't have friends in school. No one understands me. I was really leaking, all wet because I don't have bladder control. So nobody really wants to sit with me. When I was a teenager, I was fed up because nobody loves me. My family was going for a wedding, and my cousin who was getting married, and I was just left in the house. They didn't want me to go with them. So that was really sad for me. I was thinking like, why? Why me? Why they left me at home? Because I have a disability. So I always just left alone. Yeah, so it was really hard for me to remember that day when I was at home and people just go and left me at home. So I was saying, I think that's better for me to die. I think my grandmother was right. It's better for me to die than to live, because living in this life is just a hell. So I tried to take a poison twice, but I didn't die. One of my uncle came to Bible school, and that time he came and just see about Kijabe, and then meet some doctors. He came and told my dad that there's a hospital. I think we can take Francisca there. I was sitting to wait for Dr. Mansford to come. I didn't know Dr. Mansford, so just waiting for the doctor to come. I had an infection with my legs, it's really infection and, a lot of pain, So he came and see my leg, and then he saw my back, and I was wondering, now, who told me that I have a problem in my back? Because I didn't tell him. I didn't know what's the problem. What's the problem with my urine, so, my incontinence, or the problem with my leg. I didn't know. So when he came and told me about spina bifida and about my problem with the legs and the bladder and all, and I was so excited to meet him because he told me the things I didn't know. So the Bradford introduced me to another doctor called Dr. Kimberly, and they told me that they're going to teach me how to do CIC, how to empty my bladder. My life changed completely. The first time I used it, I emptied my bladder and I became dry. I see that I can live a normal life. They showed me the love of God because they loved me, they're encouraging me, and I thank God because my dad came to the Lord. My father got saved, came to the Lord, and even my brother, even my sister. When I came to Kijabe, and then I was really transformed. I can be able to empty my bladder, I can be able to be dry, even to walk around. I can be independent, I work and get salary and have the house. At the time I say, oh, so I can even date, I can get somebody. So I date my husband and then I got married. And the first time when he told me that I love you, I was like, what? I say, do you know that I have disability? He said, yes, I know you have disability, but I love you the way you are. I'm praying for God to give me children. Yeah. Yeah.